Hey EllisFamLifers, and welcome back to another Inner Circle. This is a Monday video where we just talk about wishes, hopes, fears, goals, dreams, vents, frustrations, things that we really love about having an autistic child and things that we hate about having an autistic child. So if you are part of the Inner Circle, welcome. And if you're new, thank you for joining us. And be sure to comment below. Give us a little snapshot of your story. And if something interests you in this video, then click like and consider subscribing to the channel to see more of EllisFamLife with nonverbal autistic twins, Alex and Will. So thank you for joining us. And today's topic is kind of one that's, circled around in my head for a long time, and there is no answer that I know of right now. But I have an interesting story to tell along with the big question of the day. So first I'll start with the question, which is, what causes autism? What causes it? Why is my child autistic? What did I do or not do to cause it? Did I cause it? What in the world caused their autism? Why do I have fraternal twin boys who are both nonverbal autistic? These are big questions, and obviously I've been wrestling with these questions since they were probably 18 months old. So I do have an interesting story that kind of corroborates one of the theories about what causes autism. So before my mom passed away, we went to Thanksgiving dinner at my aunt's house, and my aunt was noticing, the boys were probably about 2 years old, and my aunt was noticing that they weren't talking, that there was a lot of sensory overload, some stimming, and she asked me, do you think they're autistic? And I said, I don't really know. They do they're very emotional and happy and cuddly, but they stim, they hand flap, they yell, they scream, they melt down, they don't talk, they're not trying to talk. And so, it was kind of, I have no idea. And she said, well, Uncle Henry and Uncle Albert were nonverbal. And I said, do tell. And so she related to me the story of my great uncles. And hopefully I'm telling this right, because it's been probably 3 years since we had this conversation. But at some point in my life, I'm going to sit down and pick her brain about it, because of course it's very interesting. And it could have some relation to my children. So it's my mom and my aunt's dad, his mother. So my maternal great-grandmother had at least 5 children. She had 2 sets of twins, a fraternal girl set, and a fraternal boy set. And then she had my grandfather somewhere in there. So I know she had at least 5, probably more. Very, very poor family, probably just sharecroppers on an Alabama farm somewhere. But the girl set died early on from diphtheria. So they were around the age of 5 and they got sick and died. And the boy set were Uncle Albert and Uncle Henry. And they were nonverbal their whole lives. And when they grew up, well, sadly, I know things worked a lot different. They were probably born in maybe like the 20s or 30s. And Aunt Connie, you can tell me, comment below and tell me if I'm off on my dates. But they didn't have the same resources that we have now. And so the sad part of the story is she had to tie them to furniture or tie them to something so that they wouldn't escape. And that's a whole nother ball game, is elopement and worry that you're going to lose that kid because they're going to run off. So obviously there were some special needs there, and they never learned to talk. And when they were grown, they went to a special class, a school with a special class. And so they were in the special needs class. So there was, I guess, that resource. I don't know if because I know they were fully adult, and it was almost kind of like a day school, like a day camp for special people. So I know that she sent them to a school, but it was kind of like a day camp, and they were probably in their 40s, 50s, and 60s when they went to this school. Because I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, but of course I'm clueless, and I didn't think, it didn't relate to me. It didn't really dawn on me what it was because I was a little kid. So anyway, so I had a set of uncles who were most likely nonverbal autistic. So that leads us to the question of, does genetics cause it? Is there something in the environment that contributes to it? Did I ingest something or get exposed to something when I was pregnant that triggered the gene? Is there a gene to be triggered? It's likely, just based on our family history, it's likely that there's a gene to be triggered. Now, did it get triggered in Frankie and Steven? Are Frankie and Steven even carrying the gene? I have no idea. But it's highly likely, based on that story of these two uncles that are nonverbal, who are no longer living, by the way, that we probably have nonverbal autism as a gene in our family, and somehow it got triggered in my set of twins. So lots of other things. Is it the gut? Is it neuroinflammation? All these things, they whirl around in my head, and I have no idea. I just know that that's a really interesting story, and it's probably got some substance to it. It's probably true, and I think I kind of compare it to the bubonic plague, and that sounds terrible, but in the 1300s, the bubonic plague wiped out a whole bunch of Europe, and they didn't know what was causing it. They had no idea. There was no idea about germs and washing of the hands, and we didn't really start doing good hand hygiene until the Civil War and later. And then antibiotics didn't come around until after that diphtheria episode. That's how I know that they were born in probably the 20s, because we didn't even have a vaccine for diphtheria, and we didn't have antibiotics until the 40s maybe? So I know, I kind of compare it to the bubonic plague. Now we know that it was transmitted by rats, by vermin. And I'm not saying that autism is transmitted by vermin, but we know about the bubonic plague 700 years after the fact. And I don't know at what point the Black Death, they figured out that the Black Death was caused by rats, was carried by rats, and that it's a bacteria. But somebody figured it out in probably the last 100 years. So 600 or 700 years ago, we had no idea why this plague wiped out half of Europe. Now we know. So it may take 600 or 700 years or several generations. Now, we have a lot more technology than we did then, so there's always the chance that we will know more quicker, but I firmly believe we participate in research now, and we may not get an answer for another 3 or 4 generations past my children. So I guess the thought that we need to leave with in this inner circle is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is living your life and dealing with the kid you have now, with the resources that you have now. So we raise awareness and acceptance for nonverbal autism. We relate to each other, and we educate. And as we do those things, we move closer and closer to the answer. And we are not going to see the answer in our lifetime. I will guarantee you, we are not going to see the answer in our lifetime. I would love it if we did. But I feel kind of like that Interstellar movie where at the very end, where she's laying on her deathbed and it's the daughter and the dad has been stuck in time and space continuum this whole time. I feel like I'm going to be on my deathbed going, oh, that was what it was. So great and wonderful if we find out. But every step that we do now contributes to the answer later. Does that make sense? Every awareness that we raise, every relationship that we build, every education that we provide now contributes to the future of us finding out what is going to fix this, what it is, what causes it, how to prevent it, and how to fix it. So we just have to keep doing what we're doing. And that's so hard sometimes. That is so dang hard. And it's tedious and tiresome. I completely agree. But we just have to keep doing it because we're providing answers. We're providing the data for the answers that will come. I fully believe they're going to come. It just might take us 600 years. And it makes me want to cry just to think about it because I don't want to wait that long. I don't want to wait that long. You can hear this child screaming in the background. I want to fix it now. I don't think it's going to happen that way. But there is hope. And we have very smart scientists, and the human race as a whole is very bright. And I think that we can figure this out. It's just going to take a minute, maybe more than a minute. But anyway, so thoughts. What do you think about all that? What do you think about my story about the uncles who are nonverbal? What do you think about my possible genetic tie-in? What do you think about how long it will take for us to figure out what's going on in the world of autism? And yeah, just tell me what you think. I'm so curious to know, does anybody agree with me or do you disagree? Or do you have something to add? I mean, I haven't thought of everything, so tell me what you think. Anyway, if you learned something or if you're interested, like the video, leave me a comment, introduce yourself and let me know who you are, and tell me a little bit about your story. Share the video if you know of somebody who needs to be invited to the inner circle. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of EllisFamLife. Ring the bell for notifications. That will notify you anytime I release a video, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and quite often Mondays. Wednesdays and Saturdays always, and Mondays for now. And like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Those are your 5 duties, and I really want to know what you think. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to next time.